Well, this is a typical day in my loads, and I guess with many of you, you have like 4 different things going on at the same time. I'm trying to weld a cross member back into the car. I'll swivel you around. So here is the car. I've lifted up a little bit, the body, and this cross member I want to have back in. Problem? No. Issue? Well, whatever. Challenge? Not really. But it had to be shortened a little bit. These pins are for the seats to bolt on. So there's 2 on each side. What happened was these are normally set with bolts. The only thing is the frame rail is going to be here. So these bolts are in the way. So I've now welded them in. They just have them with a bolt for easy assembly. So they can be welded in. So I did that on both sides. This one is ready then. This one can go in. At the same time, I'm measuring the gearbox and the whole braking assembly, and there's a lot of cables here, and I think I might need to move it because of the gearbox. Then next thing, I'm outside. I should keep the door closed. I'm just now thinking. My little TIG welder that I've made a cart for. Cart is wonderful. Now it's only learning how to weld. I've tried a few. I'm making a mess of it, and I think I'm doing all the beginner mistakes. So I've watched some videos. I'm going to watch some more videos, and I have to just try. I'm doing the MIG thing, so I'm not close enough with the Wolfram point, and when I am, I'm dipping it in the weld. That's not good, so you can start up again. So I've looked at how they sharpen them. The point is much longer than I was making them, so I'll make a longer point. And I'll do the whole box, and then I have something to play with and mess up with. Right. Oh yeah, and this thing I took out on the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It worked perfectly. I did put another 2 hours in it because I have not ridden it for a full year. I like tinkering with them. I don't enjoy riding them, well, at least not by myself. I love riding them in a group because then you have I don't feel as much as a ripe tomato, which I do feel when I'm on a bike. So back to the car. Yeah, I'm gonna take this to Amsterdam. In a little over a week, I'll be in Amsterdam, and there is a big place up above Amsterdam in Alkmaar, which supposedly has a lot of radiators that I then can choose from or fit. That's why I'm taking the shroud, so we can see if we can fit it inside, and I can still have or use the radiator cap on top of the radiator. So that's what that is. I don't know if I showed these, but I had 2 rims that I didn't use. I took the tires off and I filled them with concrete, and I welded a pipe on top. And now we have 2 forming blocks. One is with my sandbag, and I used an old flywheel to put on top. So I have a little table there. And this is a piece of plastic. I don't know if I told you, this is from my company. We make them, we cast these. It's cast nylon. And they're used in a production site for making body armor. So the shape of this thing, they have different shapes, but the shape I like, and I think I can use this as a shape to bang my my steel plate on when I'm forming it. It's not as it's forgiving, and it has a nice shape that you couldn't get in wood or steel, and this is cast. So and it's nylon, so I can bang on it all I want, and it's not going to break. So here we have the car. I had a long list of things I wanted to do in this long weekend. It's not working out exactly because I've done other stuff. thought this was kind of funny that this bracket is riveted in with one big rivet on this side, two on top that I'm drilling out. And that one, they forgot. There's nothing in there. And there doesn't seem to have been anything in there. So from the 4, they did 3 rivets. I forgot the one. So even in those days, 100 years ago, people forgot stuff. So, just a short update. I took the cross member for the gearbox out and we're cleaning it up. These are the 2 that are inside the frame rail, and then it hangs from, or it used to hang like this. And we're going to change this because this has to be somewhat up more, or this has to be lower, and then this rubber block will be in between somehow and support the gearbox. Because of this going a little bit further back, we might have an issue anyway with the brake booster, because that will interfere with this cross member. But we'll see. And I'm trying to think if I want this to be stay detachable, so do it with bolts, or do I want to weld it? Yeah, I haven't really decided yet. It was riveted, so I might weld it, because I don't think you need to take this out. The gearbox can be perhaps lifted up to get the rubber block off, but maybe I should make it easy on myself and have this stay, or make it detachable. It's probably the easiest way, because I am thinking the floor will also come on top of the gearbox, so maybe it will be more difficult to get the gearbox up if you want to take it out. And then I should be able to drop this cross member down. That would make it a lot easier. So I have to think about this. There's a lot of construction to be done. Will be kind of more boring, so I won't wear you out with that. Oh, okay, hold on. There's a bolt. I will come back and show you what I do. Okay, well, sorry for the noise, but it's very, very warm in the Netherlands. And I think as everywhere else in Europe. So I have a little blower that is bringing in a little bit cooler air, because now it's 8 o'clock, so it's cooling down. So what I'm doing here is now I've moved the cab to the rear, because I want to have some space to know exactly where the firewall is going to be. So the marking I made here is where the firewall will be, and this hole will have to be filled. This is for the old gas tank or petrol tank that was located there. Yeah, we're gonna fill that. I'm trying to find the exact position of the firewall it needs to, and I think it works. There we have the steering coming straight up, going through that space here. That seems to be correct. And then the pedals, I've made a temporary little bit of a mock-up that we have the hinge here for the pedals, and then the fall on there. That seems to be fine. What I now need to do, or want to do, is take this whole assembly apart, because this assembly will have to be moved to the rear, to where the new pedal will be. It will be underneath here, underneath the gearbox, which will be quite, or it might be quite an issue, but we shall see. First of all, I have to disassemble, and then we shall see further. So I'm just going to disassemble all the cables and all the levers to get a better look at what we have. And I will need to make a new axle or shaft because this one is just too short. I need it to stick out of the chassis here for it to be able to work it on the outside, so I can have the brake booster on the outside. It might be that I run into issues with the steering arm here. So taking apart everything is easy, putting it back together is somewhat more difficult. So here I'm trying to position the pedals on where they're going to be. So I put up the firewall and I put in the brake pedal, and I'll show you here. There is an arm that I just sort of mocked up. The brake pedal is going to be on that axle shaft that's going through the rail, but it all has to be manufactured. I first have to just put everything in place so that everything works or can work, and from then on order some material and start making the parts. Okay, well, I went to the place, I forgot what it was. Yeah, the box has something else. Anyway, it's in Alkmaar above Amsterdam. I brought the shroud with me, and the lady was just magnificent. She was opening boxes left and right. She had no problem in going into the warehouse with our limited information, measuring the shroud and the cooling block that we would need to fit in there. We opened all kinds of cars, American Ford pickup trucks. They sort of were the same shape, but they were too big, too wide, I believe. And then we finally got to an English or British car, which was sort of okay. I had a little bigger head above the radiator. I couldn't quite use it, and she didn't want to give up because she was all into it. And we finally found this one, and it's for a this was a, oh gee, yeah, it was one of those beautiful racing cars, British, but not 3,000 something. Maybe we have a few owners that will recognize it. This is it. So it's fairly accurate with the, well, no, not exactly, but it's great with the size. It will fit in here just perfectly. It's a little bit of a squeeze there, but that's just, there's enough room. There is enough room, and I can open this up. I can open up the top here so it will fit in there, and I either want to open this from above because I really like to have the old Citroën temperature gauge on top, and just be able to open this from within, but it's a perfect fit. So this is the one that I will put in there, and it has even a nice little drain. Put it in there. They're Chinese made. I try to find, no, I didn't try. I had a guy in the Netherlands who can make these or make a radiator to fit into the shroud. The only problem is it's again, it's aluminum, so it's not a copper one or a brass one, which would be original. So it would be aluminum anyway. But he was charging close to €1,000. So, and these are 220, I believe. So I can ruin 3 of those before I'm up to his price. And again, it's still aluminum. So I'm going to try this one, see how this goes. So to explain you, this is the brake pedal, and the brake pedal is pushed down. I've explained it again, but I'll do it once more. So if you push the pedal down, and the actual pedal is here, so if you push it down, this little arm on the pedal will move downwards, and then you're ending up at this little system. This is where the brake pedal rod is attached to, and if you push this down, it will sort of start engaging this lever, because there are two pivots here, and this lever goes to the brake booster, and then it starts also to pivot this arm, and this arm is attached to the shaft axle. I think it's a shaft right there, on which there is also another two arms attached, and they're solid to each other. You start to turn that one, and by turning this, you start tensioning the rear brake cable and the front brake cable. And the front brake cable has an extra link, and that link goes to the back of the brake booster. And while applying a pulling force to the front of the brake booster, the back of the brake booster will start applying a force away from the system. So we'll tension the cables more. And this is a multiplication of force. As I can see, it is about 4 or 5 times more. That's the system. And I've also tried to make a little sketch here. The problem we're facing now is because Chris from the Bracket Factory, thank you very much, said your brake booster is now so nice, looks so nice, and it looks so interesting. Why don't you put it on the outside of the chassis, of the frame? Now, there are some issues that will appear, and the biggest one I have now solved in my head, and now we have to solve it in real life. So to go back on the frame, I now have to see the place of the brake booster, which will then be on this frame rail. And I completely agree with Chris. It's going to look so beautiful to have this thing on the outside, but then the other way around, because you do have another issue that the bolts are on the wrong side and you can't move them, but that's something we can solve. But it will be here. But the biggest the biggest problem is that we have 2 axles. And now we have to go to this drawing, because this is better. We have 2 axles that are above each other. And there was 12 centimeters between these 2 axles. And the axles are on the ground. This is the bottom one, and this is the top one. So they're like this in the original car. The problem is that this axle, if I want to place it within the new situation that we have here with the gearbox, I cannot go through the gearbox. I'm hitting the gearbox. So one issue is the axle has to be a lot shorter. It can only be inside the frame, but only to the gearbox. And then I have to fix a system. The other problem is that the brake pedal pivots onto this axle, but it's on the inside of the frame. And we need to get this force, because this system will be at the lower axle, but it will be on the outside of the frame, because it has to apply the force on the brake booster. Now, I don't want my brake pedal to be on the outside of the car. So, so we have a distance to cover. Lower X shaft, upper shaft, and this is the distance we have to cover. So my plan is to, I'll explain this in a way that we all get aboard, weld this to the shaft so that the shaft becomes one, and then move this lever, and then we have the frame rail in the middle, sort of, and this sticks out on this side of the frame on the outside. move this lever to the outside the rail, and then it can apply the force to this other pivot point. That will work. So I have to make um, a, a bearing block. I have to fix it so, because it was going to be a much shorter axle, how to make it from wobbly, because it doesn't have, it only has the point at the frame where it can get its force from, but I have to triangulate it because I cannot use the gearbox any longer, as in the original setup. And the original setup, the gearbox and the engine were fixed solid to the chassis. In this case, the engine is on rubber blocks, and so will the gearbox be. So I can't use the gearbox and the engine as a fixing point. I have to do everything on the chassis. So that's my one solution. And then the second one, what we had was that the lower axle, the upper shaft is sort of okay. I have room because it's not going to go all the way to the other side. So I have room to play with this one. This one, however, needs to go from side to side. Plus, this one also has to be a lot longer because this one also has to come out of the chassis on this side. And if it comes out on this side, it has to come out on the other side, because we cannot have any different lengths of cables, because then the brakes will be applied differently to left and right of the car. That is something we do not want to have. So I've ordered material, a longer shaft, which can run the full length and come out on either side of the chassis. Problem we then have is that the 12 centimeter that I had as a distance between the two shafts, because I have a different gearbox and the shaft cannot go through the bell housing, it needs to go below the gearbox. So we have the gearbox in between and then the drive shaft. This distance is not 12. I think it's more like 25. Now, luckily, because we have a lot of leverage going on and connection rods, if we move these away from each other, the movement will not be different. It will be a longer length that I need to cross over, but the movement, as long as we keep them straight above each other, these two shafts, the movement will be exactly the same. There is an issue that the shaft will be quite low under the car, but it's still not the lowest point. So I think that is our solution. Now only we have to do this in real life. So we have to make some bearing blocks for this shaft hanging off of the frame. We have to make a bearing block for the upper shaft. We have to do definitely some welding. We have to do some fabrication. We have to make some bracketry. And then we have the rod for the handbrake, or the shaft for the handbrake cables. Cables were going to be renewed anyway, so I have to lengthen a lot of them. We have to look at a lot of linkages. I really would like to have the linkages going through the brake booster to be the same length. So we will go from there, and we have to decide where the pedals will be and where the brake booster will be, because the pedals, I think, is the first thing. How do I get the pedals into place? And if I put the bulkhead on, just it's loosely on, but this will decide where the pedals will be, and this will be because the chair was already correct, and the chair we can move up and down. I think that's the plan. We decide first thing, decide where the pedals will be, and then we have the shaft of the pedals. We know what that will be, and everything will form from that shaft position. Thank you for watching.